So moving forward now, when we're talking about our appearance and policing and controlling our bodies, in essence, our bodies, how we look, what is acceptable, what is unacceptable. Before we come to the hairstyles and everything today, this is not a new thing, because when we have the case of that woman Bardman, I think her name was, the South African, who was transported to France and put in a cage, and she was looked at because of her features, her very voluptuous features as a black woman, and she was also then put out on the street and prostituted and everything like this. When we look at this, blackness, black people have always been objectified. Slaves, rapes. When we look at what is taken, we look at the descendants in America, and we see black people of all different hues, and we know that that took place. The abuse of men also took place. So we've always been objectified. Now with the hair, the discussions, there was a recent court case that took 4 or 5 years. I was reading it yesterday, actually, in which a girl was expelled from school because of her afro hair, or wearing her hair naturally. And it took 5 years. She's now 20, obviously left school and everything, but a ruling came from this one of the higher courts that it was wrong, and it's racism to control or determine what is acceptable hairstyles or not for black young people and black people. But if a white girl wants to wear cornrows, she can go to school and be compared to Bo Derek of the 80s movies and everything like that. A black person wants to wear cornrow, it's threatening, it's unacceptable. And again, it comes back to what I mentioned earlier, the compartmentalization that we are allowed to fit in. And as black people, we've got to be very, very clear. We need to be defining our own parameters. Our measures of success cannot be restricted to what is the societal measure of success. We need to break, it's not a glass ceiling, it's a corrugated iron roof. We need to break through to start defining our genres, defining our parameters, defining our measures of success. Why do I say this, Bilal? Because when we go back historically, predating slavery, and we look at the kingdoms of Songhai, we look at Timbuktu, when Europe was not even literate with regards to writing. When we look at these kingdoms, they talk about Mansa Musa. Even today, we see that Elon Musk has paid 44 billion for Twitter. And we know that the wealth of Mansa Musa was maybe 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 times that of all of the wealthy put together today. Estimations, if you want, from a Western perspective, we're going through, because some might think I'm exaggerating. But when we go back and look at the systems, the societies that were established, that were then decimated by Western imperialism, the Portuguese, the British, the Spanish, when we look at the decimation and almost the attempted obliteration of black history predating slavery, that's a crime in itself. It's criminal in itself, because what the Western post-Enlightenment narrative is trying to do is to say that the world was uncivilized and in a state of darkness preceding the Enlightenment that came about with white Europeans. And there could be nothing further from the truth in that regard, because we know, again, there was a statement I saw and I use it often. Black history did not start at slavery. It was interrupted by it. Yes, our history was interrupted by these 400 years or so. And we are still feeling the effects, and the remnants of that are there in inherited trauma, in inherited poverty, because there's inherited wealth. As you know, 2015, 2016, we saw that the UK government, using taxpayers' money, completed payment reparations for the slave owners, because once slavery was abolished, their commodities, black Africans, had to be let free. So they received, in today's worth, millions of pounds, which could only be completed 2015, 2016 using taxpayers' money. As we know, African descendants received absolutely nothing. So where there's inherited wealth from slavery, there's also inherited poverty. Because what that means is that the paradigm, the construct that has been given to blackness is limited. The exception breaks through, rubs shoulders with the white elite and the white infrastructure, but the remaining populace can only reach and achieve particular levels. And it's not just tangibly I'm talking about perspectives and perceptions, because we have to live as well with instituted perceptions of us as blackness, as you said, with the Muslims in the African countries not being literate because they're saying they can't read English, but they can read Arabic. When you transpose that, or if you like, juxtapose that with a Western context, look at the stereotypes that are upon us as black people. Look at fear when you see words associated with blackness, fear, danger, violence, you know, dark. All of these elements here are what we are still contending with in an intangible context. So leave the tangible, because I'm saying, no, there shouldn't be reparations, there shouldn't be this, how will it work and everything like that. But intangibly, we're seeing that we are at a disadvantage, and the microaggressions that are met every day, many occasions, even those who are saying all lives matter, that's a microaggression when you look at the context. Those who say we don't see color, microaggression, because you're saying you don't see color to diminish the fact that I don't see blackness, you are the same as everybody else. No, you need to see my blackness, but you need to place it on an equilibrium with everyone else that you're seeing. So my perceptions on what you've discussed are numerous. You can see that this is something that not only have I studied, but we have lived these experiences. So when you're talking theoretically, we can apply that theory to the practical aspects of our lives. We are also practitioners and purveyors of the black experience and the theoretical frameworks that have been developed and the theoretical concepts that have been expounded. We can tell you whether that works or not. But the problem is here, Bilal. We as black people need to stop being examined and need to examine ourselves, because we have amongst us, and it's something that has been established and is set, whereby we tend to end up fitting into the stereotypes and the compartments I've mentioned that have been given to us. And it's too easy to do that, because all it then does is reinforce those nihilistic stereotypes. They say black on black crime, black on black violence. But when you look at white on white violence, it is many more times than black on black. And some might say, oh, that's because the white society is more predominant than the black. No, you cannot bring that particular perspective. When you look on white, but it's not called white on white, it's just called crime. But when you look at how white on white crime is addressed, there are more resources and there's more focus on that, because it's more pervasive over society. With black on so-called black on black crime, which I don't accept, there is facilitation to allow this to happen, because that's all they can do, and the less of them, the better it is for society.